Preface. Ethereal Hollywood is a world reconfigured from the golden age of Hollywood, where the legendary stars are not just memories, but immortal archetypes, still living in their own parallel alternative reality. Familiar history is not duplicated but flexible and constantly revisioning itself along diverse pathways. Time and space are also more fluid and less binding. And what has been called magic works in odd and unusual ways, producing scenarios from the silly to the surreal. And since these stories are in an alternative world or dimension, there are variances from real-world facts, such as the relationship between characters, studios, events. This is a fluid world where history flows in unexpected directions. These are audiobooks with imagery synced to the narrative as much as possible, serving as quasi-storyboards to give a rough visual dimension to the stories. Audrey Hepburn and Louise Brooks, Trading Roles. Book 23 of the Ethereal Hollywood series. By Arnold Kalnitsky. The sky over Ethereal Hollywood was a perpetual masterpiece, a swirl of lavender and molten gold that bled into a twilight ceiling pricked with diamond dust stars. Here, the golden age never tarnished, and its denizens remained forever in their glorious prime. At the Hollywood Hotel, an Art Deco ziggurat of impossible angles and shimmering chrome, David O. Selznick was throwing a party. The air hummed with the murmur of legendary voices and the clinking of champagne flutes, a symphony conducted by the ghost of Cole Porter himself. Amidst the glittering throng, two women, icons of different eras, stood near a fountain sculpted in the likeness of Icarus. One was Audrey Hepburn, a study in delicate lines and doe-eyed sensitivity. Her Givenchy gown was a whisper of black silk, her very presence a charming, quiet melody. The other was Louise Brooks, a stark and beautiful counterpoint. Her jet-black bob was a sleek, defiant helmet, her eyes holding a knowing, almost predatory intelligence. She wore a beaded dress that moved like liquid mercury, a statement as bold and unapologetic as her reputation. "You know," Audrey began, her voice a soft, melodic confidence, "I've always wondered." The silence. The sheer power of it. She looked at Louise, not with star-struck awe, but with a deep, artistic curiosity. To convey everything with a flicker of the eyes, a turn of the head. To be elemental. When I watch you in Pandora's box, as Lulu, she's not just a character. She's a force of nature. Earthy, raw, alluring in a way that feels dangerous and utterly free. I've always yearned to feel that, to play a woman so untamed. Louise took a sip of her champagne, her crimson lips leaving a perfect crescent on the rim. A small, wry smile played on her mouth. "Funny, isn't it? The things we covet." Her voice was lower, with a flinty edge that had intimidated studio heads and captivated millions. "I watch you in Roman Holiday, and all I see is light. Pure, unadulterated, incandescent light." She gestured with her glass. To be that innocent, that effervescent. To have the world fall in love with your charm, not your scandal. To play Princess Anne, a woman discovering joy for the first time, unburdened by a past, that, my dear, seems like a far greater challenge to me than seducing a man on a silent screen. They shared a look of profound understanding, a bridge of mutual envy spanning the chasm between the roaring 20s and the atomic age. In Ethereal Hollywood, where careers were endless and projects evergreen, such longings were more than idle fancies. They were possibilities. "Then let's not just wonder," Audrey said, a spark of uncharacteristic boldness in her eyes. "Let's ask." She nodded towards the center of the party, where David O. Selznick held court, a titan in a tuxedo, orchestrating the universe from the patio. He was a whirlwind of manic energy, his cigar a smoldering scepter. Weaving through a constellation of stars, Clark Gable laughing with Carol Lombard, Betty Davis locked in a smoldering debate with Joan Crawford, they approached the producer. David, Audrey said, her charm a tangible force. Audrey, darling. And Louise, a magnificent, dangerous combination. What can I do for you two? Selznick boomed, his eyes alight with the thrill of a potential production. Louise, never one for pleasantries, cut to the chase. We want to trade. She wants to be my Lulu, and I want to be her Princess Anne. Selznick's eyebrows shot up. For a moment, he was silent, the cigar frozen midway to his lips. Then, a slow, predatory grin spread across his face. This was not a problem, it was a premise. A spectacular, headline-grabbing, universe-bending premise. Intriguing, he mused, tapping ash onto the pristine terrazzo floor. In Ethereal Hollywood, anything is, potentially possible. Time and space are merely suggestions, you see. But there must be rules. Structure. Art demands it. He began to pace, his mind a whirring projector. A double feature. Pandora's Holiday. No, too clumsy. Two separate films, premiering on the same night. A study in contrasts. But to maintain artistic integrity, certain anchors are required. He stopped and pointed the cigar at them. The challenge must be real. Therefore, you must each work with actors from your own original time. Audrey, you will be surrounded by the titans of the silent era. Louise, you will navigate the more naturalistic performers of the 1950s. He paused for dramatic effect. Furthermore, a director knows his star. He knows the soul he must either capture or transform. So, you will each work with your original director. Mr. Pabst will have to pull the raw sensuality from Miss Hepburn. And Mr. Wyler, he chuckled, will have the distinct pleasure of finding the innocent princess within Miss Brooks. He beamed at them, a mad genius who had just solved the riddle of the Sphinx. This will do more than entertain. It will echo, enhance your permanent reputations not just here, but across all the timelines, all the dimensions that watch us. It will show them new facets of your brilliance. Are you in? Audrey Hepburn, the delicate fawn, looked at Louise Brooks, the panther. A silent, thrilling accord passed between them. They were in. The set for the new Pandora's box was a disorienting world of stark black and shimmering white. German expressionism bled from the very walls, jagged angles, looming shadows, a sense of decadent claustrophobia. G.W. Pabst, a man of fierce, intellectual intensity, watched Audrey from behind the camera. He saw the grace, the poise, the ingrained elegance. And he hated it. Neen, Audrey, Neen. He barked, his accent slicing through the quiet set. You are not waiting for a taxi on the Champs-Élysées. You are a creature of instinct. Hunger. Forget the neck, forget the posture. It is all in the eyes. Show me the abyss in your eyes. Her co-stars, resurrected giants like Conrad Veidt and Fritz Kortner, moved with a theatricality that felt alien. Their emotions were grand, primal, painted in broad, powerful strokes. Audrey felt like a calligrapher's brush in a world of sledgehammers. In one scene, she was meant to laugh, a wild, seductive laugh that promised both heaven and hell. What came out was a tinkling, charming sound. Cut. Pabst roared. That is the laugh of a girl who has been given a pony. I need the laugh of a woman who has just devoured a man's soul. Frustrated and on the verge of tears, Audrey fled to her dressing room. She felt utterly lost, a fraud. A quiet knock came at the door. It was her leading man, a handsome, melancholic actor named Otto Frank, known for playing tortured poets and doomed lovers in the silent world. He didn't speak. Instead, he handed her a single, perfect white rose, then simply sat in the corner of the room, his presence a silent, supportive anchor. He understood. Words were clumsy. It was the feeling, the shared space, the unspoken thought that mattered. Looking at him, Audrey understood something. She had been trying to act raw. She needed to be raw. She returned to the set, her makeup slightly smudged, her hair a little undone. When Pabst called action, she looked at Otto, and in his deep, sad eyes, she saw her reflection. This time, when she laughed, it was a broken, guttural, haunting sound. It was the sound of Lulu. Pabst stared, mesmerized. Yes, he whispered. That is Pandora. On set, a romance bloomed between Audrey and Otto, a love affair conducted almost entirely without words. It was a connection of shared glances, of hands brushing in the shadows, of understanding that transcended language. She was discovering a part of herself that was not delicate, but primal and powerful. She was becoming art. Meanwhile, on a sun-drenched, Technicolor backlot replica of Rome, Louise Brooks was having her own crisis of faith. William Wyler, a patient, meticulous craftsman, was trying to film the scene where Princess Anne secretly eats a gelato on the Spanish steps. "Louise, darling," Wyler said gently, for the 10th time. "You look like you're dissecting it. You're a princess who has never had this simple pleasure. It's a discovery. It's delight. It's innocent." Innocence was a foreign country to Louise. Her every move was calculated, her wit a sharpened shield. When Gregory Peck, playing the charming reporter, accidentally bumped into her, her instinct was to deliver a withering comeback, not a flustered, charming stumble. "The lines are clever, Willie," she'd argue in her trailer. "But there's no subtext. She just is. That's the point, Louise," he'd counter. "She isn't hiding anything. Can you try that? Just for one scene?" Her frustration mounted. The crew tread carefully around her, aware of her formidable reputation. She felt superior to this frothy material, yet simultaneously inept at it. She was an intellectual trapped in a fairy tale. Her breakthrough came not from her co-star, but from a young Italian screenwriter named Marco, hired to add authentic local flavor to the dialogue. He was unimpressed by her fame and unafraid of her intellect. He would debate philosophy with her between takes, challenging her cynical worldview. "You believe innocence is ignorance," he told her one afternoon, sharing an espresso. "But perhaps it is a form of wisdom. To see the world without the burden of judging it." During the filming of the Vespa ride through Rome, Wyler strapped a camera to the handlebars, wanting to capture genuine reactions. As they sped through the set, a sense of reckless abandon took hold of Louise. The wind whipped her sharp bob into a frenzy, and looking at the blur of bright colors, the smiling extras, and Marco watching from the sidelines, she forgot to be Louise Brooks. She forgot her past, her ambitions, her defenses. She let out a peal of genuine, unadulterated laughter. It was the laugh of a girl tasting freedom. Wyler, watching the footage later, knew he had his princess. A tentative romance blossomed between Louise and Marco, one built on intellectual sparring and a surprising emotional vulnerability. He saw past the scandalous flapper and found the brilliant, ambitious woman who had always felt misunderstood. She was learning that lightness was not a weakness, but a different kind of strength. The premiere at Grauman's Ethereal Theater was the event of the century, even for a place where every night was legendary. A spectacular double feature. Pandora's Kiss, starring Audrey Hepburn, and Roman Hart, starring Louise Brooks. In the velvet darkness, Audrey watched Louise on screen. She saw the flickers of the old, sharp Louise, but they were softened, subsumed by a radiant, believable innocence. She saw the courage it took not to be cynical, the strength in vulnerability. She clutched Otto's hand, his silent support a language she now spoke fluently. Across the aisle, Louise watched Audrey. The ethereal gamine was gone, replaced by a magnetic, dangerous creature of shadow and light. In Audrey's explosive, silent performance, Louise saw a terrifying honesty she had always chased in her own way. She saw the untamed spirit she had so often been punished for, now celebrated as high art. Marco put his arm around her, and for the first time in a long time, she felt completely, utterly seen. Both films were hailed as transcendent masterpieces. The critics of Ethereal Hollywood, and of the countless other dimensions tuning in, raved. Pandora's Kiss was praised for Hepburn's shockingly primal power, a revelation that redefined her legacy. Roman Hart was lauded for Brooks's nuanced, heartfelt performance, proving her range extended far beyond the femme fatale. Later, at the after-party, Audrey and Louise found each other again by the Icarus fountain. The lavender sky was deepening into a violet night, the stars beginning to blaze. "You were luminous," Audrey said, her voice filled with a new kind of awe. "And you," Louise replied, her sharp smile now holding a genuine warmth, "were terrifyingly beautiful." They hadn't swapped lives. They had expanded them. Audrey had found a raw, emotional core she never knew she possessed, and a love that didn't need words. Louise had discovered a capacity for joy and light, and a partner who cherished her mind as much as her face. In the endless, magical realm of Ethereal Hollywood, they had done the impossible. They had remade their own legends, and in doing so, had become something more. Their new films, and the enlightened souls who made them, would now shine on, brighter than ever, across the timeless expanse of eternity.